My guest is Peter O'Reilly. He is the Executive Vice President of Club Business and League Events for the NFL. You can follow him on Twitter at PL O'Reilly. He's in charge of the Super Bowl, the NFL Draft, the Pepsi Halftime Show. He's been on with us before. Peter, how are you?
Doing well, Brian. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Yeah, this is fun to do this on video for once. We usually do audio only, so this is nice to see you as well. So what a year. We talked earlier in the year when you pulled off a very successful virtual NFL draft. And now here we are in 2021, and we've got the Super Bowl in Tampa. It's Tampa Bay versus Kansas City. First time ever that the host city has actually had a team playing in the game. How has that affected preparations?
It is, this is the year where you kind of throw everything into the soup. So you might as well throw in the historic element of the host team being in the game. So it's been great. Obviously as we sit here, heading into Super Bowl week, the energy down here in Tampa has been amazing. This city's been an incredible partner, and you kind of now we're in the mode of you navigate. It is a neutral site game. So you want to, and the Bucks are the home team is the NFC team. So you work through a lot of the equity pieces. What I would say is what would have been the more challenging scenario, Brian, would have been the Bucks hosting an NFC championship game in the stadium. And then even more so if we had gone to a scenario we had on the table of collapsing the off week between the championship games in the Super Bowl. That would have been a big operational challenge. Since the Bucks were able to make this journey on the road and then come home to play in the Super Bowl, some of the operational pieces have been a little bit easier, but it's going to be exciting. The energy in here on Sunday is going to be off the charts.
Explain to our audience quickly, how much in advance does the NFL typically come in to take over the venue prior to Super Bowl?
Sure. So we really take over the venue, quote unquote, after the last event in here. So that's where the home playoff games become challenging. So it was really after the bowl game in here was the last event. So really first couple of days of January, our team hits the ground across the Tampa Bay region, including at the stadium, and really start to build out the Super Bowl campus, which, as you know, is a bit different than a traditional regular season game or even playoff game campus. So the compounds, the elements, everything that goes into the start of the build of the halftime show and those pieces all start to ramp up in that early January period. And now as we sit here, in Super Bowl week, you're pretty set to go as we head into the last few days.
This one's going to look different. So I've read 22,000 fans. Can you break down that 22,000 for us if you could?
Sure. So in the bowl, you're right. We'll have about 22,000 in the bowl. 14,500 of those will be ticketed fans in physically distanced pods, similar to what you've seen at the stadiums across the league, including Raymond James, where we've had fans. So you'll have those pods of fans, mostly 2s and 4s, some 6s, who will be spread out across the bowl. And then the balance of that 22,000 are the 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers who we've invited as our guests to attend the game, either from the region or from around the country. So they will also be spread out and really staggered across the entire bowl. So if you come into a seat, with your friend or wife or husband or sitting in a pod of 2, you'll have nobody sitting in front of you, nobody sitting behind you. And then in the row behind you would have someone diagonally, a vaccinated healthcare worker. So kind of this patchwork across the stadium. Clearly, as has been the case all season, masks will be mandatory. We're providing KN95 masks to every single staff member and fan, vaccinated or non-vaccinated. And as you know, that's a really effective mask on the higher end of the available effective mask. So definitely distance. And then just the places where there are not fans will be fan cutouts. So you've seen that in different forms from the early days of sports in the pandemic, but we've worked with a lot of our key partners. So you'll see a lot of great youth football players, high school football players with their cutouts in there. members of the military, veterans, and others. So you'll see, all the Super Bowl MVPs will have cutouts in there, all of our men in
Wow.
the year. So maybe some nice little Easter eggs of celebrities. So when you turn on the Super Bowl, it will, we hope it'll look very, very full and different, but full because the cutouts will fill in the gaps.
Super Bowl week is such a big thing. We've talked about this in the past. You've got, all the activations and, obviously there's parties and you've got your broadcast partner, CBS. We'll talk about them in a minute. This is going to be different. And I know Media Day is going to be virtual. And just tell us and our listeners how things will be different leading up to the game on Sunday.
Yeah, it's definitely different. No doubt about it, but we think still really special. And we've had core principles that have guided us really from the beginning, and it's been health and safety 1, 2, and 3. So that's just driven every decision. You kind of run it through that filter. And then it's been, let's get the core right. Let's get the game right, the participating teams, the stadium, the broadcast, as you mentioned. And then let's see where we can innovate. Certain things just don't make sense to do, quite frankly. The parties, the hospitality, those things, they're just not happening this year. And that's a shame because they're a great part of the experience, but that's not the world we're living in. So we as we went through the process, made those decisions. And then where we could go virtual. So you mentioned Super Bowl opening night, which is actually today, the media day element, that's all virtual. So capturing that content, allowing the wide swath of media to still ask their questions via platforms like this, allowing fans to ask questions, and still, NFL Network and CBS and ESPN will have some great programming coming out of that. Or things like NFL Honors, which is our night before Super Bowl big award show, a lot of special moments. That's more of a TV property this year. It's usually a big theater event, red carpet. So that's more TV based, but still will be incredibly special. Man of the Year, Hall of Fame class, et cetera.
Yeah, I love the NFL Honors. I went a few years ago. I think it was 2015 when it was in Arizona. And what a great job that you guys do with that event. And, it's interesting, Peter, we talked earlier, NFL draft earlier in the year. You've pivoted beautifully. You've learned new technologies. And I'm wondering, are there some of these things that are possibly best practices for the future that may stick around? You got such great reviews from the virtual draft, from being able to see families in their house with their families react to getting drafted in that moment. And it was different than if they had walked across the stage and, been there in person.
Yeah, I would say definitely yes, Brian. There are pieces of everything, and I'm sure most organizations, sports and beyond, feel this way, but there are really good pieces of what we had to pivot and do this year that are absolutely going to continue forward, whether that's the draft and the ability to bring ourselves into more prospects' homes and make it more personal and those things. And Super Bowl is the same. There's going to be this virtual component. Hopefully we're back to a world where we can have the energy of Radio Row and all of that, and the energy and sometimes chaos of media opening night. But the reach of some of these virtual platforms and the accessibility of them, I think will absolutely pull through. And, it goes down to how we plan these. I think that, our trips down to Tampa were fewer this year. And I think that'll carry forward. There are only certain things you need to absolutely be there in person to plan and see and touch and feel. The prep meetings, the debriefs afterwards, they all can be on platforms, video conference platforms. So I think some things are indelibly changed, and I'd say probably indelibly changed for the better.
All right. Everyone's so fascinated by Super Bowl. It's the most watched event of the year around the world. Let's talk about some of the specifics of the game. National anthem. You guys just put that information out, I think today or very recently. Who's singing the national anthem?
So we have a great pairing. There very rarely has there been a duet for the national anthem. You have to go way back for a duet. So the country music star Eric Church is going to be joined by the R&B star Jasmine Sullivan. So two very different voices coming together for a really powerful national anthem. And then just prior to that, the incredible artist Her will be performing America the Beautiful. And I'll just let your listeners know that I always would say this and encourage people to tune in throughout CBS's pregame show all afternoon, but make sure you're in front of your television by 5:45, I would say, Eastern. There are a lot of special moments this year as you start to go through that last 45 minutes up until the game. And I would say, Brian, that this is again, hopefully always the case. The Super Bowl is a unifying moment and a positive moment that brings people together. Being very humble about our role overall, but I think we have the opportunity to create some really positive unifying moments that do bring people together, not only in those anthems, but also in some of the messages and moments that will be part of it. We teased out our great marketing team has a spot that's going to feature Vince Lombardi and bringing back kind of what would Coach Lombardi tell us at a time like this? What words would he use during what still is a really challenging time? So some interesting fun moments that I would encourage people to make sure they're in front of their sets on.
Speaking of wonderful words, I hear that there's going to be a poet for the first time prior to the Super Bowl. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that one makes me smile for sure. Amanda Gorman, who was the first ever Youth Poet Laureate and then became known to the broader world during the President Biden's inauguration with her poem there, she has written a custom poem that she has read, and we've recorded her. NFL Films has, that we use to introduce and tell the story of our three honorary captains, three individuals who are just the best definition of a helper, an incredible wounded warrior who's just rallied his community during the pandemic, an incredible educator out in California who is just bridging the digital divide, and then the ICU nurse manager down here at Tampa General, Susie Dorner. So Amanda's poem will do that. And I will say, and I give credit to a woman named Katie Conklin on my team who brought Amanda to our attention in early November before inauguration, before Amanda knew she was doing anything for the inauguration. And we said, look at this incredible young woman who could provide the words that hopefully bring to life how special these three heroes are. So many may think it was post-inauguration, let's get Amanda in here.
Right.
This was an early November plan.
You guys have a good scouting department for talent there.
That's good. We got to get Katie signed up for some NFL scouting duties.
So the Pepsi Halftime show, you guys have partnered with Rock Nation on this. The Weeknd is performing. That's always a huge part of the game. Last year, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira were absolutely outstanding, and that had great reviews. Tell us about this year's Pepsi Halftime show.
We are incredibly excited, Brian, for this year's Pepsi Super Bowl halftime show. The Weeknd is such a dynamic artist with so many great hits. And he and the team at Rock Nation, Jesse Collins, who is the new Super Bowl halftime producer with whom we're working, has just been tremendous. So clearly different in many ways because there has not been a live concert like this since the pandemic. So working through not only how to put on a football game and the Super Bowl safely, but how to put on a 12, 13-minute concert in the middle of it has been required a lot of really thoughtful work by the team. And I think it's going to be a really special show and a show that uses different parts of the stadium in ways we maybe haven't in the past. And just a fun, upbeat, energetic show, which in some ways is what the country needs, is just, some fun and some energy. So really excited, and the Weeknd and his team have been great partners.
CBS is the broadcast partner. Tony Romo and Jim Nantz, and I've even read where they're being isolated from each other and literally won't meet up until they get into the booth. So taking great precautions there. But the broadcast partner is such an important element of this, as we discussed earlier. This is the most watched TV event of the year in the United States and probably around the world.
Yeah, no question. CBS is, such a great partner of ours, and has such great experience with Super Bowls on down the line and all of the roles. There's such great expertise there. So they've been with us every step of the way on how do we, again, bring this to life. You've seen it, typically, and obviously Jim and Tony are best in class in terms of what they do. And to your point, CBS and all our partners have been really vigilant on their COVID protocols all season long. And that is at the center of everything we're doing. But, it's a different setup here. Typically you'd have sets down on the field and all of those things you would be, up close there. We've really limited all season, but for Super Bowl as well, the number of personnel, what's on the field. So we've moved things around, we've shifted them, but, they've got, they are pros, and this is going to be a really special broadcast with Jim and Tony at the mic.
Super Bowls are always must watch, but you've got Tom Brady, who's got 6 Super Bowl rings, and you've got Patrick Mahomes, who's really the face of the league moving forward. Could you have even asked or dreamt of a better matchup? I mean, what a great opportunity for the NFL and for CBS.
Yeah, there were so many permutations as you went through these playoffs where it was kind of, you couldn't go wrong almost. But to land on this one where you have somebody who is now synonymous with Super Bowl in Tom Brady and an incredible surrounding cast around him. And then Patrick, who was, in the game last year and is such, both such incredible representatives of the league, and then so many people, and then 2 terrific veteran head coaches who lead very diverse staffs. There's just such great storylines everywhere you turn.
We've got a few minutes left. Anything else with the game itself? I always think it's interesting to hear about what does your day look like on Super Bowl Sunday? What are you doing? I always tell you to make sure to eat enough and drink enough, but give our listeners some semblance of what your schedule looks like on Super Bowl Sunday.
And my mother always appreciates that, Brian. So the schedule is, a lot of things the same and some things different. So we'll probably, get rolling around, 5:30 or so on Sunday. The process now has a new element that we haven't had before, where you go down, we'll go through our health screening process. At the hotel, we have that set up there, get cleared, temperature check. Many of us across our broader team are tested daily. So we'll get the daily COVID swab test, and then head over to the stadium. We'll do full walkthroughs of everything, do that kind of one last check of everything inside and outside the building. And then we'll hunker down in NFL Control, which is kind of our nerve center, where we've got cameras on every facet of the stadium, and then run through the day. And it will be different, obviously a more limited capacity. So it'll be different arrival patterns, and some new elements. One thing I didn't mention is I mentioned the 7,500 vaccinated healthcare workers, but because all of those hospitality and tailgate and parties are not happening, the one thing we are doing is putting on a concert solely for those healthcare heroes, a celebration of them, and doing that pregame for them, a Miley Cyrus concert with some special guests,
wow,
things. So that will be a lot of fun. And we always love what we do pregame and the hospitality, but this one has special meaning. The fact that these folks who have been on the front lines and will continue to be as they administer the vaccinations are able to get a little respite, a little joy, and a chance to come together for a concert and then the game as our guests, something that they haven't been able to do and really nobody has been able to do since March. So that to me is a huge, hopefully sign of what's to come as we come out the other side.
All right, I know you have to go in a few minutes. Future Super Bowls, Los Angeles next year, right?
That's right.
And then Phoenix the year after.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know 2024 yet?
We don't. So we, the ownership voted to shift New Orleans from Super Bowl 58 in 2024 to Super Bowl 59 in 2025 because of a conflict with Mardi Gras. We knew this going into the process. As we in the next couple of years, we'll be shifting to a 17-game season and a 1 week later Super Bowl, so the second Sunday in February. That required that. So we're in the process now of doing the analysis on Super Bowl 58 in 2024. But to your point, we got two really good ones in front of us. Los Angeles in SoFi Stadium. Obviously, unfortunately, we're not able to host fans, so this will be the culmination next year of a first season of fans in SoFi at a Super Bowl there, and then on to Arizona, which you know well, and a tremendous stage there at State Farm Stadium and in Phoenix.
And then last question, NFL draft coming up in April, Cleveland, correct?
Cleveland, yes.
Okay, gosh, Cleveland's going to be rocking for that. And at this point, are you looking at in person or virtual, or do we not know? We got to wait till we get closer.
So we are, like everything, obviously continuing to have conversations with public health authorities and our medical experts to determine what the right approach is. But what I would say is we've got an incredible partner in the city of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns, and a great opportunity. It may not be everything that we drew up when originally Cleveland proposed their plan for the draft, but we are confident as we sit here that we'll be able to do something significant in Cleveland to bring the draft to life. And like I said before, I think inevitably it'll be the best of hybrid, if you will. Some of those elements from the virtual draft that were really powerful. And then again, pending medical sign off, the ability to bring people together, at least vaccinated people for sure, for an in-person event to have the 2021 draft.
Peter O'Reilly, Executive Vice President, Club Business and League Events for the NFL. Follow him on Twitter at PL O'Reilly. Peter, thanks again for joining us for our annual conversation. Good luck to you this weekend, and I think it's going to be great.
Thanks for having me again, Brian. Always enjoy it, and enjoy the Super Bowl, you and everybody.